Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guests are Sharon Daphna and Gabriel Lazar. First, a couple of announcements. Our new show, It Happened May the 4th, is available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Go check that out. Also, watch the Forbidden documentary Occult Louisiana on Tubi, Roku channel, and many other streaming platforms. If you'd like to get a premium membership, do so at rokfin.com/FKN+. That'll get you access to not only all our premium content, but all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. And a great and easy way to help support Forbidden Knowledge News is to download our podcast episodes through Spreaker. This is always free for you. Finally, we are booking guests for September. If you have suggestions or maybe you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome Sharon Daphna and Gabriel Lazar. They are Orgonomists, Orgonite makers, gifters, and teachers in search of a solution to the air pollution that is man-made chemtrails and the other unseen frequencies and harmful chemicals that may be surrounding us at all times. Sharon, Gabriel, welcome. How y'all doing?
We're doing good. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for coming on. You're doing such amazing work that is incredibly beneficial for humanity and the planet, making orgone generators. Now, although we've discussed the incredible benefits of orgone here before, Sharon and Gabriel have some essential information about how we're being poisoned from all angles and how we can easily counter these effects in very profound ways, and they've already been doing so. But before we get to any of this is your first time on, so go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and what led you to start this orgone journey.
Do you want to start?
I think you should.
Okay. Well, actually, we both discovered it together. You know, we both discovered this together. I actually think Gabe started me on this because he's the first. It was the first time that I had heard about chemtrails. You know, was from Gabe. And I'd heard the word before. I'd heard it mentioned by someone else. And then one day Gabe said to me, "Oh, that stuff you see up there, they're spraying us to make us stupid," is what he said. And that's when I started looking. And it turns out, you know, we will get way into this. It turns out they're not actually spraying us. It's something completely different. And we'll get into that. But he opened my eyes to it. So I would say that Gabe was the catalyst for me. And I started looking at it and I said, well, whatever it is, it's got to stop. This is bad. So I started looking into all that stuff about chemtrails with Geoengineering Watch and all the information available from the alt media online. And I spent 2 years in just horrible fear and panic over it because of what I was learning. And then we were both kind of depressed about it. And I just was looking into solutions. Is there a solution to this besides email, you know, the government about it or whatever?
Which is not a solution at all.
So I started looking up solutions and I came to Orgonite. And it sounded very far-fetched to me. But as I started to understand it, I heard a very good explanation of it by Ken Rolla, an electrical engineer, who totally was able to explain it scientifically to where I thought, let's just give it a try. Then through using it, we saw those trails actually disappear. And we still didn't understand the nature of it. We still thought we were being sprayed. But once we finally learned that this was actually an energetic war, we got even better at clearing the sky and took it even farther and farther and went well beyond where we lived and went all over the United States West and started dispersing the Orgonite tower busters, these ones here, to all the cell towers. We learned this was an energetic war, not actually a biological war like we were being told, you know.
Not involving substances, but involving
energies.
Two opposing energies.
Yeah, so we'll get all into that about what that actually is up there. But Gabe is the reason, is because he pointed at it, and it was the second time I'd heard the word, but he said what they were doing was making us, was dumbing us down. And I said, well, that won't stand. So,
well, I first heard about chemtrails around, I want to say 2008, give or take, from a friend. And I had much the same reaction that you had years later. I'll just add that to the list of things in the world that suck, you know. so I didn't really think much about it. But when we met in 2011, we lived in Los Angeles, and the skies were very, very, in addition to being polluted, there was a lot of that, what the alt media calls chemtrails. And yeah, as she was saying, I kind of mentioned it offhand, and that just began this long journey into understanding A, how to fix the problem, and B, that we are being lied to, even by the alt media, about the nature of the problem. Because we, as you were saying, we totally believed that spraying narrative for years. And I know this is going to come as a shock to a lot of people, but we have learned definitively that that is a totally false narrative. It's not true at all.
Well, we've been doing this for 10 years now. So we've been gifting since 2014. And through doing it and not just putting them out there, but recording everything that happens before, after, we collect weather stories, news stories, and our own pictures of everything that we do out there and all the changes in the sky. We've actually become Orgone scientists. It's called orgonomists. And there is no college degree for that. They don't teach that in school, but it's the science of orgone energy, which was discovered by Wilhelm Reich back in the 1930s. And he used it to clear air pollution and bring back rainfall during the 50s with experiments he was doing out in Arizona and on the East Coast. So he actually knew about this for a long time, and he dealt with all kinds of strange stuff in the sky, but no, people didn't talk about this back in the 50s. But this stuff's been going on a long time. So we discovered through our work a lot of new things, and we've recorded it all. And through doing this, we've determined that all air pollution in the sky can be removed energetically. All weather systems can be restored energetically, and there's really nothing in this world to fear. So ultimately, I spent 2 years in just total fear. I had looked at the Michael Murphy films, what in the world are they spraying and why in the world are they spraying? And I was freaked out. Once we started using Orgonite, we learned that that actually wasn't true. I mean, maybe they don't know that, but it's all just hearsay. And we figured out that a lot of government actors were putting out a lot of false information for people who could see it. You know, for the people who were not just looking at mainstream news and noticed it and thought something's weird up there, they put out a whole other narrative to scare us and keep us powerless. And then when we learned that that narrative wasn't true either, that's when we came to the solution.
And there's many other narratives on top of that. There's a different narrative for every class of person that there is. And it's all tailored to just divert people away from the truth and back to that state of fear and feeling utterly helpless, ultimately.
Well, let's start with your understanding of what is really going on with chemtrails. You said they aren't really spraying anything. What are we experiencing? What are we seeing in the sky with these trails? And maybe get into the effects and what's in it.
Yeah, well, first of all, nobody actually knows what's in it. No one's ever been able to get up there and get a sample. I know people say, oh, well, we found it in the soil. Yeah. We found it, right, or we found it in the water. But you can't really use that as an accurate gauge because there are so many pesticides and pollutants in the environment around us all the time. So there's no way of saying where did it come from, because undoubtedly there's, heavy metal in all kinds of things in our drinking water, and it's in the land, and it comes from all kinds of sources, pollution from vehicles. There's all kinds of stuff that's in the air. So the reason we know it's not that is because of the way the Orgonite removes it. You could see an energetic effect up there. So when you see a heavy trail day where they're just crisscrossing and they're everywhere like that, it's an indication that the atmosphere is positively charged, and it's at what we call deadly radiation. So on Earth, there's healthy orgone energy, which is the natural field of the Earth. We would call that a good kind of radiation or energy. And then there's
Wilhelm Reich abbreviated that as OR.
Orgone.
And for the deadly radiation, he abbreviated that as DOR. So we use those two terms all the time, right, without really explaining what they mean. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And so, yeah, we can really break everything down into positive life-giving energy, the life force energy, orgone, and deadly radiation, or DOR, which Wilhelm Reich called deadly orgone radiation, but we just call it deadly radiation because it's not actually a type of orgone, and I don't want to confuse people. So we basically just say OR, DOR, it's life-giving and deadly.
The good one, the bad one.
And the good one comes from us. It comes from the earth. It's natural. It's the energy of creation. It's the energy of life. It's that energy that runs through everything. Wow. And the DOR comes from a lot of artificial sources like cell phone towers, cell phones, wireless, all wireless technology is on a deadly frequency. I don't think it has to be. I think that this whole thing could have been set up where we could have wireless communications and it wouldn't be life negating, but it was set up to be deadly.
We've seen evidence that it has been done that way on purpose.
Yeah. And in Wilhelm Reich's time, nuclear radiation was the type of deadly radiation that he was encountering out in the desert. And as you know, in the 50s, they were doing a lot of nuclear tests out there, supposedly. I don't think that they actually were. I think there was a lot of alien activity that was bringing in that nuclear radiation. But this is what he was measuring with a Geiger counter and counteracting with Orgone. So when you see a sky that looks unhealthy, that's flat or covered with trails and lingering pollution of all kinds, including smog at the atmosphere, at the lower atmosphere, when you see brown haze on the horizon, this is an indicator that the atmosphere has a deadly radiation that's dominating over the life.
Now, can I ask you real quick? I've seen trails that seem to have a shadow behind them on some sort of flat cloud surface, and that is insane to me. Could you explain what I'm looking at there?
Oh, we're still working on that one. That's a weird one. This to me, so there's holographic aspects to this as well. And we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of strangeness, real strangeness going on up there. And
it would take hours to deconstruct.
But we'll try to get into that too.
Yeah.
We will definitely try to get into that too. But we are seeing a definite holographic element, something that's masking what's really going on up there. But regarding I know it's totally nuts. We actually had one like you described just the other day, and we're still looking at those going, well, how do they do that? How is that happening? But we also notice more and more of that the more Orgone there is. So we notice more craziness and strangeness up there. The more that we fight against it, the weirder that stuff starts to look. And I should talk about how the trails change.
Yeah, what we're seeing atmospherically is two opposing energies at work. And all atmospheric phenomenon can be directly linked to this ongoing battle between these two energies. So when you have a landscape that's gridded with cell phone towers, which are positively ionizing, you have problems like drought and lingering air pollution that doesn't clear or can't clear. And so what we have noticed is by placing these orgonite pieces in proximity to the cell phone towers, that results in a lot of these crazy visual things in the sky that we see. The trails, doing crazy stuff, things, that look like stuff is being swept up and carried off into space.
Because it is
really crazy stuff.
Ken Rolla is the first scientist that explained this to me in a way that I could understand it, because mostly it was just kind of new age hippie stuff online about orgonite, and I thought it was like total BS. But he explained that it sweeps the pollution up and away from the Earth. So it's like a spiraling wave. So when you see funnel-shaped clouds, it's because it sweeps it up and away. And regarding the trails, when the atmosphere is full of positively ionizing deadly radiation, you will see them lingering. But as the energy flips, and it does every day, you'll see the trails start to break into pieces, twist up, and the sky will eventually clear. So if you observe it day after day, even in a place that doesn't have orgonite, you will see these changes. However, they happen slower when we don't have that extra boost we need, because you're dealing with such a saturation of deadly energy, in places that haven't been gifted yet.
Yes, and the sky is the trails are basically like litmus paper, and they are an indicator of the energetic state of the atmosphere in any given location.
Right. That's why on some days you won't see any.
Right.
And some days they're very short or they break up immediately. So if you're not seeing any, it's because the energy in your atmosphere is weighted towards Orgone. It's a healthy day. It's a healthy atmosphere. And then on a day where you see a lot, it's unhealthy. The more orgonite we put out there, the less of those unhealthy days we have.
Now, there's a couple of documented processes that we can dissect a little bit that anyone can go and prove to themselves that this stuff is real, such as cloud seeding, the Bill Gates Harvard atmospheric aerosol injections, high atmosphere, trying to block the sun craziness. Talk a little bit about your understanding of what they're doing with this.
Well, this is a psyop. So they have created a narrative for us you and us and everyone listening to this who knows that that is not normal up there. They are taking credit for it, basically. They're basically taking credit for it and saying, oh, well, we're just spraying stuff up there to block the sun and prevent global warming, when in actuality, what's going on up there is not it's not human in origin. And I would say Bill Gates is probably not human in origin either. But what you're seeing going on up there is a very secret program, and it is beyond Earth. And so I know that a lot of people are going to be shocked by that, but the simple explanation of spraying just isn't what it is. If you see the reaction, and you can check out my blog, and I have a book of the first 5 years of our work is documented in there. If you check out what happens time after time after time and you try it yourself, you'll see that that stuff can be removed completely. And then there will be days after you've put the orgonite out there where the planes fly over and there's no trails. So if it was a spraying operation, there wouldn't be a stop to it just because we put orgonite out there. They would still be able to spray the chemicals. I mean, they could spray pesticides over the crops, even if there's orgonite out there. So if it was simply a particulate that they were spraying, it would still be happening. But because of the energetic shifts, we see a completely different atmosphere on a healthy energy day and an unhealthy energy day. So we know that that explanation there is to cover up extraterrestrial involvement, perhaps. I mean, Wilhelm Reich definitely encountered that. He was literally doing battle with UFOs up there with the Orgone energy. And this is a huge cover-up of some kind of other influence that's not human, and also the energetic power that we have. They don't want us to know that with the life force energy and these very, very simple tools that generate it, that we can overcome all of this. So yeah, Bill Gates, all that atmospheric aerosol injection, solar radiation management, all of this is just part of that geoengineering narrative, which is the psyop for the next level of people who don't believe CNN.
So based on your research, what could be the real purpose behind what we're being subjected to? If you've been in this space for any amount of time, you start to see that there's multi-layers to everything. There's many purposes to every agenda that they're trying to put out there. What would you think this is all about?
Well, I think I can sum this up in a pretty succinct way, I hope. This planet has a parasitic infection. And it has for thousands of years. Wilhelm Reich estimated at least 25,000 years. And we don't exactly know the nature of this infection, but what we have determined and confirmed in a variety of different ways, and researched other people's work, such as Wilhelm Reich, and that's sort of confirmed it too, is that this infection, this force behind the infection, feeds on human suffering. That's why everything is consistently in lockstep, without exception, being done to induce that. If it were just random chance, occasionally they would make a mistake and something good happens, something that's beneficial. But as you can see, that never happens. The formulaic nature of it was our first clue early on, indicating that, this is not just humans doing this, because look at the humans around us. They can barely even tie their shoes without an app to tell them how to do it.
This is beyond human capability. And in fact, flight is likely beyond human capability. But that's a huge topic. We have definitely an alien influence here, whether it's, this could be what Don Croft, who was one of the early Orgonite proponents, he called them the parasites, and anyway, we call them that too. There's some beings here that are not human that are running everything. Wilhelm Reich was aware of an alien presence, although he never got into this to figure that out. He just wanted to bring rain. He was just using life force energy to promote rain, like basically weather modification. He was a rainmaker. People would call him out and say, hey, can you help us? We're having a drought. And he was working with the technology to make rain.
Successfully.
In doing so, however, he discovered by observing the atmosphere at night that what he thought were stars were actually crafts moving around, and that they would retreat from his Orgone cloud buster, which was his Orgone device. So he knew there was some repellent aspect to those parasitic entities with the orgone
that needed DOR to thrive. That's their life force because everything's inverted.
So he knew there was an alien influence. He actually contacted the Air Force about it. Basically, the U.S. government just said, thank you for informing us of your activities, but they never helped with that alien threat because they were, of course, in on it and knew about it.
Complicit, but not the point of origin.
Don Croft called them the parasites. Mac Tanis calls them the cryptoterrestrials. And this is a new topic we're delving into, is that perhaps these are not extraterrestrials, but they live on Earth and they're cryptoterrestrials, meaning another race of beings that's here with us right now.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the film They Live, that sort of kind of touches on what's going on with that theory.
Yeah, so we know that it's something not human. I mean, it's very hard to prove such
It is, but we can look at the narratives unfolding. We can take a step back and look at everything that has unfolded in the past few years, and we try to humanize the controllers at the top, and it becomes impossible because the ideologies and agendas they put forward are so anti-human. What does that mean? There must be something else calling the shots here, right?
It's that formulaic nature that I was talking about. It's just, it proves it.
So the DOR grid over the Earth, which is mostly done through cell towers because they're everywhere. And it's being broken down now with Orgone energy in a very big way. There are a lot of people getting involved besides us now with this. But that DOR grid was responsible for a lot. And they didn't always have cell towers, but they used other means in the past. And it was easier to control people in the past too. Now it's harder to control people because they have access to so much information. And people don't want wars anymore. We're friends with people all around the world through social media. So it's so hard to control people's minds like it used to be. So now they're using electromagnetic means to do so, because as we learn more and more, and they have less and less control over how we think and what we do, they've now put up a frequency fence, DOR-based, over every city and every town, the whole landscape of the country and the world. And this system, it works in several ways. It suppresses our consciousness, and it also suppresses weather systems. And we also think that we're starting to discover that it is responsible for a lot of the flight we see up there. So when you see the ones up there that have trails, and you don't hear them, by the way, if you might notice, now that I've said it, people might notice that when they see those, they don't hear them. When they hear the plane, they probably won't see a trail. We've noticed when you can hear them, we see a plane, no trail. When you can't hear them, we see the plane higher up with a trail. Whatever this ground grid is somehow responsible for that upper atmosphere flight grid, and we do not think they're using regular jet travel.
The one depends on the other.
We are observing more and more in the last couple of years, especially as we break down more and more of their grid, their ability to fly what they call commercial planes isn't working anymore.
Yeah, look at all the news headlines of all the crazy stuff happening. You know, panels flying off, wheels falling.
Well, that's because they've brought back
engines catching on fire.
Well, that's because they've brought back, there's two technologies going on in the sky. There's the one we know, like he's talking about, these planes that are falling apart because they're old and shoddy and built by humans. And then there's whatever that is up there, which is not that
maybe
kind
a different technology altogether, a DOR-based technology that just simply isn't working anymore.
And it's based on that DOR grid on the ground. And so it seems to me, and this is all theoretical at this point, but this is our latest discovery we're working on, is that a lot of the commercial flight that we think is just, you're just getting on a plane and it's, you know, jet fuel and you're traveling, it's not what it seems. That's what we're seeing. And we've seen some strange holographic things on our last flight, in fact, before we said, we're not going up there again in 2017. I saw some strange weirdness from inside the plane that led me to this was leading me to further conclude that there's something going on up there that we do not understand.
When I first started looking into all these high strange topics, what was happening in the sky was a really big part of it for me, and I used to sky watch quite often, and I'd notice with the planes and whatever was coming out, we'll just call it chemtrails for now, that they would spray, for lack of a better term, this substance, whatever it is, across the sky, and then within hours you can go back and see the process of what would happen. It's like you could almost see this frequency wave passing through whatever's in it, and it spreads across the sky in different ways. Sometimes it looks like bubbles, sometimes it looks like waves, but it appears that there is some sort of frequency wave that is hitting it that's causing this. Now, this was quite a few years ago. Yeah. I'm sure that they are continuously updating their technology with what they're using for this. And back when I was looking at it, a lot of people were talking about HARP. And now I know they have Gwyn towers and all sorts of other frequency emitting devices. What is your understanding of what they're using to do this?
Well, yeah, that's all the same stuff we've been observing for years. It is primarily the cell tower grid. Now, HARP is one facility in Alaska. Now, people give a lot of importance to it, but I would say put one of these at each corner of HARP and that thing is decommissioned. I mean, it is, I'm telling you, it's that easy. I know it sounds crazy, but I should just briefly mention that these contain quartz crystals, metal shavings, very fine metal shavings, a copper coil, and they're cast in a catalyzing resin. And this put together, all that, the resin squeezes upon all the elements and amplifies the natural orgone that's in the metal, which is a crystalline structure, and the crystals. And this amplifies that to the point where it creates a waveform that's so strong that it neutralizes a whole cell tower. So that's why I say a few of these around HARP would neutralize anything coming out of that place. But that's just one spot. Yeah. It's really the coverage over the entire land that's causing all that stuff to linger in the atmosphere. So when you see that, you're seeing the energy hitting it. You're seeing the waveforms. It's being hit by that energy, but now it's also being hit by OR. So when you see like crazy stuff like ripples and stuff, you're literally seeing two energies going head to head up there. So it gets weirder and weirder the more orgonite we put up there.
While we're getting weird, I'd love to go down some deep rabbit holes that often come up in the conspiracy community. Some can get quite controversial, such as the possibility that there is levels of mind control frequencies that can be combined with certain pharmaceuticals and trigger certain responses in people, and also to the degree that the weather is modified in control, weaponized hurricanes, things like that. But let's start with the big pharma possibilities and what can be done with frequencies.
Well, I actually, they don't even need the pharmaceuticals to get to people's minds with frequencies. I'm sure that it helps to dull down the mind. It helps to sicken the body.
Well, there are some that are speculating that with our modern pharmaceuticals that there could be hidden elements that work with the frequencies. That's getting really deep down the rabbit hole, but it's things that I've heard along the way.
The main evils here are the cell phone and the cell phone towers.
Those are the two main ones. But I know people
those are the ones that very few people address, especially the ones in the alt media that are talking about these things. They never talk about the smartphones.
Right. They don't talk about the smartphone.
Huge. It's an epidemic. It's a tremendous problem. And Sharon talks about it throughout her book and inevitably most of her blog postings, and on our podcast we talk about it all the time.
But regarding if stuff in the medicine that can react with it, I know they're talking about nanoparticles, like metals that would react with frequency. The body is so inundated with heavy metals already that I think the pharmaceutical industry is a great way for the alt media to divert attention off of the smartphone, like Gabe was saying, because it's terrible. I won't take a vax for anything. I won't touch any of that stuff. We don't know what it is. To me, I think it's total quackery. It's not really how disease works anyway.
Yeah, it's worse than even
we'll talk a little bit about what we're seeing with the cell phones, because this is concerning as well. And I witness it on a daily basis with what I'm interacting with, things that show up that I thought I just thought about, these different concerning aspects of what we're really interacting with on a daily basis with this.
Yeah, the cell phone is the personalized mind control device that's tailor-made to every user who uses it. And we literally do refer to people who use them as users. We don't. We have a landline. We have a corded lifeline. And we live up in the mountains, so it's by necessity also. But learning just the underpinnings of how the whole frequency fence works the phones combined with the towers and what that does to people as well as the atmosphere. Once you start learning that, then you say to yourself, I don't want to be involved in this anymore.
Right. A lot of people don't want to give up their phones because of the convenience of it. But I have an article on my site called Hardwire Your Home. It's a quick and easy guide. It explains how you can have full technology without the frequency. So, you know, you can use full capabilities without it. Yeah. So I explain that on the site. So for people who want to delve into that, you can actually hardwire your internet and not have any Wi-Fi, and you can use a landline at home. And, you know, I'm not against having a cell phone. I mean, when you're out there, it's good to have it, but we keep it off and we only use it if we have to. And we have a plan that literally is 30 minutes or 30 texts a month. I mean, that's it. So that's how we don't even use it up. So
it's on for 3 minutes a month to check something, and then it goes right back off.
But, you know, as far as if there's pollutants in the body, you know, I know a lot of people are concerned about the interaction between the deadly energy of the cell phone. Well, they're actually worried about the towers and the 5G towers and deadly substances in the body. This is how the alt media diverts you off the cell phone. The cell phone is way worse than the 5G tower because you got it in your hand, you got it in your pocket. It's way worse. If you don't use it, there's a really good chance you could keep away from that energy almost completely, because 5G is actually short range. It really requires you to bring it in. As far as how it interacts with particles in the body, well, I mean, you know, I don't think it's impossible that it would be reacting with the metals in the body. However, I think it doesn't even need that to screw you up, you know? So if that makes it worse, you know, that's
well, we see what happens when different frequencies just hit water, and what percentage of human is water, so it probably doesn't take much of that to cause different detrimental reactions.
Exactly. People have no idea just how insidious and toxic these phones are. And part of the reason, ironically enough, is because the phone is literally sending that signal 24/7, telling them that this is good. You want this.
Use me.
It reminds me of that old Emo Phillips joke. I used to think the brain was the most interesting part of the human body. Then I thought, oh, look what's telling me that. So it is that thing where it's self-perpetuating.
Right.
Basically.
It's a very hard addiction to Wilhelm Reich. And also James DeMeo is another Orgone energy scientist. He's now deceased, and I have a lot of beefs with him, actually. But the one thing I agree with him on, and there's a few things I agree with him on, is that DOR is addictive. Deadly radiation is addictive. So the cell phones, if you notice, people are addicted to them. They're not just addicted because of the content. They're addicted because the radiation changes your body, it changes your mind, and it tells you, like Gabe said, use me, I'm helpful to you, I'm part of you, and it becomes a part of you. And that's the problem, is that people become one, merged with it, that singularity that they talk about human and AI merging.
And the kids are just, it's try taking a smartphone away from a child.
I've seen some of those disturbing videos.
You'll see a tantrum like you would not believe.
I've seen one. We saw one. It's in my book. It was an Illuminati baby in San Diego. We were gifting in San Diego. It was June of 2018. We were just finishing up, getting ready to go back home. We were having some lunch in a restaurant, and this little baby, I mean, like a toddler, was holding a cell phone and playing some music out of it and dancing around.
I think calling it music is a little bit of a stretch.
She was dancing around kind of like a 2-year-old shouldn't be dancing around this way. Look what they're teaching the kids to do, you know? And the mom tried to take the phone away from her. Oh my gosh, this kid screamed her head off. Anyway, there's some stuff about that in my book. I called it an Illuminati baby because she was basically just looking at whatever her mom was letting her look at. She probably shouldn't have been looking at it. It was negatively influencing her. She was acting, you know, slutty for a little kid like that. It's really weird. And she was being egged on by a couple of people in the restaurant, which was not appropriate.
No, but it's not, as Sharon was saying, it's not just the content.
No, it's the energy.
It's the energy itself that is addictive.
And this baby was already addicted to the energy. And on the same trip, in fact, here's another example from that trip. We were staying at an Airbnb house. There was a dog that barked his head off at everybody, including us when we got there. But the energy in that house was very deadly. There was, you know, the Airbnb proprietor would go to sleep with her cell phone. You know, she would like watch it in bed and, you know, go to sleep with that. And there was Wi-Fi going. She went out for a night and we had the place to ourselves. We turned off the Wi-Fi. We were reading. We were hanging out. We don't use a cell phone. The dog laid down at our feet and acted like a completely different animal.
Silent.
I mean, it changed the dog. You see, getting rid of that energy, the dog went from hyperactive and barking, and he was also feeding off of the owner's energy because she was hyperactive from the DOR. As soon as that was gone, this dog became like as calm as can be.
And the atmosphere reacts to an infusion of OR. Animals react to it. Plants react to it. It's the life force. It's what the ancient cultures called chi or prana. Wilhelm Reich was just the first one to scientifically recognize it and measure it and talk about it in a scientific way. But the ancient cultures, they've known about this for thousands of years.
Yeah. So we see the mind control element of it. On the frequency grid, there's a mind control element. There's a weather control element. It looks like also flight control. This is something new that we're discovering as we see it started with massive flight cancellations starting in late 21 after we did a couple of major giftings. That was Phoenix and Sacramento. Those were major. And so we started with a lot of flight cancellations through 2022, more and more of those. Then we started hearing planes again. We hadn't heard them in years, meaning they seem to be using a different technology. And now they've really brought back that old tech, you know, and
well, they had to change tactics because this is in fact a war, but it's not a war of, you know, guns and shooting and stuff like that. That's really overt. It's an energetic war.
Right.
It's very slow. It's very insidious. It's very subtle. A lot of people they'll live their whole lives and never even know that it happened. And it's really just a war of attrition.
That's what Wilhelm Reich called it.
Those were his exact words to describe it. But we have seen in the last 10 years, we actually gifted our very first cell tower precisely 10 years ago this month. We've seen, and we've distributed close to 10,000 of these out throughout the US West. We've seen what happens to the weather when you do this. It completely restores everything. It's just, we haven't even gotten into it yet, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And, you know, we don't exactly know the nature of the enemy, but we know they exist. We know what their MO is, and we know that they must be stopped. And this is exactly how to stop them. There's no other way.
Right on. Now, before we get to those solutions, I do want to cover one more thing about what we're facing. And I mentioned it earlier, how much they actually control the weather. Can they control hurricanes, use them as weapons against us? What do you think?
Absolutely. One of our newest discoveries is about hurricanes and tornadoes, in fact. And what we've learned through 10 years of this is that every weather event is energetic, every single one. So anytime there's even a drizzle, it's because of an orgone shift in the atmosphere that brought that about. So whenever the energy shifts and becomes higher in OR, the life force energy, you will see the rain. So whether it's just a regular, you know, soaking rain or a hurricane or a tornado, a major weather event, we have seen that it is actually orgone energy that causes it. Now, when it happens in a big way, like a hurricane or tornado, that's an energetic imbalance. And what it would require to create such a dramatic and out of control storm, which is not natural to this earth, by the way, would be too much OR all at once. And so they've actually been able to weaponize it, but they're not using the orgone itself to weaponize it. What they're using is the cell towers. So what they'll do is they'll suppress and suppress and suppress. DOR from the towers suppresses rain. That's what causes drought. They'll just bombard the atmosphere with the deadly energy that prevents cloud formation. So the clouds form because the atmosphere is negatively charged, which is the healthy energy, and the hydrogen bonds form, and then it rains. When it's positively ionized, deadly energy, those bonds can't form and it can't rain. So they'll just bombard and create drought. And then what they can do is on a large scale, they could just drop it. They could just turn off that DOR. And by removing it very suddenly on a massive scale, that would have the effect of an OR rush. So you just remove the DOR so quickly that the orgone energy becomes overwhelming.
Like a gigantic on-off switch for the towers, which will still provide reception. And it's like, we're talking about like DOR emissions.
It's like if you had a hose and it was crimped and you're stopping the water from coming through, and then you suddenly release it. That's what creates these crazy storms. A hurricane and a tornado is basically an out of control OR rush, basically removing the DOR way too fast. The reason we've been able to discover this is because orgonite gifting on a large scale causes extreme weather. It can cause a sudden change. If you gift 100 towers in a day, you can cause a mini tornado. I mean, we know people who have done this. Our gifting friend up in Canada actually created a miniature tornado. It wasn't a huge destructive thing, but it took down a few trees. After gifting through Saskatchewan. She gifted a couple of major urban areas, and a tornado happened. And when we've gifted on a major scale, at the same time, we were in Salt Lake City while she was doing that in 2022. We gifted for a couple of days, and the massive thunderstorm that happened after that, it was really impressive. And we had another one in Las Cruces, New Mexico, just in the late 2023. We were in October of 23. We gifted Denver, Albuquerque, and Tucson. It was a 2-week trip. It took a lot of energy. After we gifted through Las Cruces, he must have thrown like a dozen tower busters. There was like probably at least 12 just towers in close proximity. It released such a storm. We had to pull off the road and get under an overhang at a gas station. So because of the hail. So we know that Orgone energy, when it happens really quick, when you suddenly restore it really quick, it creates severe weather. Of course, going forward now, those towers are neutralized. So we're not going to see that again. They're not going to be able to build up the deadly energy and then drop it. But yeah,
because they build, and then suddenly attenuate. And once you gift,
they can't build it up anymore.
They can't do that. So when we distribute orgonites in the cities, we're literally driving back and forth on every street and gifting every single cell phone tower we see.
Yeah, so that's one of our big discoveries. Is since we know for a fact, it doesn't matter what meteorologists say about, this hot air caused this and the warming of the ocean causes this precipitation. None of that is what does it. Those are all just effects of energetic changes. So they're trying to say one effect caused another effect, but they don't want to talk about what's really going on because they don't want us to know that all weather is energetic and we can repair it. So yeah, that's how we discovered about the hurricanes is if all weather is caused by an OR rush, well, that's just too much OR at once. But how do you get too much OR at once? By removing too much DOR at once. So if we gift all those towers with Orgonite, they can no longer power them up anymore.
You'll get one last release.
And
then that's it.
Like we have a gifting friend that just went through and did some major work in Ohio. And after she did this work in Ohio and in New York City, you had those tornadoes in New York. And up in Toronto, I saw a great news story about Drake's mansion getting flooded out. That's good. That guy's evil. So, that's what it does. But I emailed her and I thanked her. I said, don't worry though, those towers won't be able to be used for a tornado again. You released it, but that's it. They can't use them anymore.
If people in Tornado Alley started gifting the towers like en masse, there would never be tornadoes again. And I know that sounds like an incredibly bold statement, but the evidence we've accumulated over the past several years does show that her theory is correct. And once we start seeing it on that global scale, when people start taking care of the problem for real, not just being distracted by all these non-solutions that the alt media is putting out, it's amazing. The book proves it.
And by the way, I do want to add that because I'm sure that somebody's going to comment that's dangerous then if we put out the Orgonite and it causes severe weather. One way that you can, first of all, if you just don't do a ton of them all at once, you will get some strong storms, but you won't get anything like super destructive. But one way you can get it to where it's really, really gradual is you just do your own city a few at a time. Like you make it a thing you do once a week. Like, hey, I'm going to go out on Sunday. I'm going to put out a few TVs at different towers. Then the next week you go to a different place and do a few more. If you do it really gradually, it won't release it like that. Yeah. But when we go out and we've got to drive now, over 1,000 miles to get to places we haven't done yet.
We're in Southern California, so the further we have to drive, we have to take hundreds of Orgonites with us.
Otherwise, it's not worth the time of getting out there. Yeah. So we've had to do more and more at a time.
But if you do just a few in one sitting, you won't have any catastrophic sort.
But you'll probably get rain. I had a really nice email the other day from somebody up in Alberta, Canada, who did it with her daughter. It was so sweet. She and her little girl put together the tower busters. They looked at our videos, read up on the site. She had studied up on it. She and her daughter did it as an activity together. And it's kind of a fun art project for people who are crafty. And here's another example. Anyone can make these little pyramids. These guys and the tower buster, we have videos on our site that tell you how to make them. So she and her daughter made the tower busters, and the sky was very hazy and DOR-ish. as she said, and she knew how to use the word DOR rather than chemtrails because we're starting to learn that that's really what it is. And she said she put the Orgonite out there with her daughter, and then it rained the next day. And so she was really, really happy because it went from hazy and stagnant to rain. And that was just from doing like a dozen tower busters in her neighborhood.
You'd be surprised.
Excellent. Yeah. Let's talk about Orgone and the benefits and what you guys are doing. We briefly touched on it throughout the discussion so far, but tell us a little bit more about your understanding of what this energy is and how you guys are harnessing it and the materials that you're using.
Yeah, so I've explained very quickly how the Orgonite was made. I didn't know how much time we had. In this one, you could see it a little better because you could see all the elements. So I think I'll just describe it, and anybody can come to our website, thekembo.com, and learn how to make these little pyramids or the tower busters. But as you can see, this is cast in resin, and it's cast this way into the mold. And you start with metal shavings, very fine. These are brass, and in this one, these are aluminum.
But
any kind of metal.
Any metal works, but they just have to be very fine shavings. The finer, the better.
And this one has it has a shungite stone in the middle. And shungite is known to be good against EMF, so we put those in a lot of our Orgonite. Actually, almost all our Orgonite contains shungite nuggets. So this one just has a big one. And you can't see it well because they're clear, but it's got clear quartz nuggets in there as well, because quartz is a lot of the power of Orgonite, and a copper coil, and some selenite. We put some selenite in there. And it's all cast in the resin. And the way it works is the crystals have a natural orgone energy, and so do the metals. They have a crystalline structure. You've got hundreds of these tiny particles in there. And when you put the resin in there, it squeezes on all of that as it catalyzes, and the squeezing action activates the piezoelectric properties of the crystals and metals. So they already have that energy, but this squeezes on them and amplifies it.
Yeah, and that's why you need a catalyzing resin to make properly functioning Orgonite. Some people try and use alternative things that don't catalyze. Those don't work. So not to make proper Orgonite anyway.
Well, they're worried about the health aspects of using a chemical like that. So I recommend using an epoxy resin. Like this is like a no fume epoxy resin. I put on a respirator anyway, but this is like a no VOC, very safe arts and crafts resin. And the tower busters, they're using a little bit more of we're using a cheaper resin on these because we've got to distribute these on a massive scale. Like I'm going up to Boise at the end of the month, and I'm bringing 200 of these with me. This is a laminating resin. It's a lot harsher. It's like a surfboard resin. So definitely use breathing protection, work in a ventilated area. If you're worried about chemicals, then I would recommend the epoxy. You can use a polyester or an epoxy resin to make these.
And we make decorative pieces too, but really the meat and potatoes of the whole Orgonite gifting activity is simple, functional, cheap Orgonite that you can make a whole lot of and distribute to as many cell phone towers as possible.
And the way it works, and we learned all of this originally from Ken Rolla, is that when you put it near a deadly energy source like the cell towers, it creates a counterfield that neutralizes. Its energy is the opposite. It's life energy, which is the opposite of death energy, and it actually neutralizes that signal. So you can completely knock out the power of a cell tower. Now, in your own home, it's important to have it because of the EMF that comes into your home. I always recommend everyone have an EMF-free house. And don't use that stuff in your house. If you absolutely have to use Wi-Fi and a cell phone, then definitely turn it off when you're sleeping at least. Give yourself some relief. But the Orgonite can help mitigate those effects if you need to use them. But if you don't use them, it's even better because the Orgonite will give you all the full benefit of the orgone energy without it having to do battle with the DOR.
Yeah, and by the way, the Orgonite will neutralize the DOR being emitted from that cell phone tower without adversely affecting the reception.
Right.
If that's even what they're used for. Don Croft used to posit that cell phone towers are not being used for reception at all, that comes from satellites, and that the towers are just used exclusively for weather control, which is actually not as far-fetched.
I don't think it's too far-fetched because we tackle those towers. The 5G towers that people are worried about are short-range things, by the way. I just want to add that because I know people are going to be like, well, what about 5G?
Speaking of range, what kind of range would you get from the effects of these towers? How far out do the effects work?
Well, the tower buster goes a quarter mile.
Oh, wow.
So
roughly.
So if you get within a quarter mile of any cell tower, you've got it covered. The range of the cell tower, I'm not sure. We know what the Orgonite works. Don Croft is the one who said put it within a quarter mile, and we have found that consistently it works.
And also, you can, if you see a cluster of 2 or even 3 together, we've found that one of these tower busters properly made, that neutralizes the lot of it. If you see more than 3, we'll
throw a couple.
We'll put a couple. But yeah, it's definitely, when we were gifting in Phoenix in 2021, you would not believe how many cell phone towers that made no sense why there were that many.
That's why we think they're for weather control too, like Don Croft said, because there was way more than would be needed. And some cities have a ton of them and some cities don't have a lot. Like Denver, we were surprised, had fewer.
Very few.
We tackled that airport though. I mean, we gifted the hell out of that airport with more than just to the towers. We threw a ton of them out there because we know how evil that place is. And that's another thing, is it does combat evil. I mean, we're talking about life force energy. So you want to put it anywhere where anything bad is going on. You could gift a prison, you could gift anything that you think needs gifting, but the towers themselves, that's the key. And in Phoenix, it was nuts. Las Vegas too. And you know what? I know why. It's the drought agenda. They don't even need that many towers in those areas to make it droughty. It's the desert. But they prevent monsoons by doing that. And when we did what we called Project Monsoon in 2021, we unleashed it. They had called it a non-soon the year before. The media was saying, oh, there was no rain. After we did that was over. The monsoon was back.
Our past 3 summers here in Southern California, we have started to get those monsoon systems coming up from the Sonoran Desert in Mexico. They've made it all the way. They've gone as far as Oregon and Idaho.
They're really far north now. They're really far west. The monsoon is getting stronger and stronger.
And the whole reason we're doing that is so that when there's storms coming during those months when they really like to set fires, July, August, September, they won't be able to do that anymore. And these are largely government entities like the U.S. Forest Service that are deliberately starting these fires because they have agreements for how much they have to burn. They call them controlled burns, and as you'll notice, a lot of them end up getting not so controlled.
They have strange beliefs that burning the forest prevents fires. And so much of the time, these things go out of control. Like in New Mexico, they had the largest wildfire in history, which was caused by the U.S. Forest Service.
We've got a pretty big one burning out of control about 20 miles north of us right now. 20 miles south of us in near Loveland. There's a huge fire in the mountains right now, and it's smoky everywhere. And it's, of course, not contained, and no explanation why. But the fires have been more abundant, seemingly, in the recent years.
Yeah, because they're starting them all, and they're doing them between rains when they know that they can get them ignited and have them, not just smolder and go out.
Yeah, we did a lot of research on this. We have our own channel.
This is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, I was just going to mention for people who want to know more about that, we did a lot of research on it. Our channel is called The Human Frequency, and maybe you can link to it in the show notes so that people can check it out.
And we're in California, so we know all about
we know a lot about fire. So we did a series called Wildfire Wars, which was a couple of years ago now, but we really dissected what was going on with the wildfire situation and how much of it was deliberately set by government entities. And what we've determined is that the solution still remains gifting Orgonite. And so Texas is a major target for us. We've got to get there. That place needs a lot of Orgonite. There are some gifters in Texas, but they're not working on the scale we are. It needs to be a major effort. We're going to Boise next, and I know that's far from Texas, but that's going to have an impact on everyone.
Every little bit helps.
Every city that is neutralized creates huge changes because the cities are the biggest concentrations of cell towers. So Texas is definitely on the agenda, and we actually have a video about Texas specifically that it needs more Orgonite because you guys have been having some of the biggest wildfires in history over there too. That's what needs to happen is just more effort. More people need to get involved. And if everyone just did a few tower busters in their area, it would change the world.
There would never be fires again.
If these were built
I know that sounds
to a larger scale, would they cover a wider range if you have like a massive Orgone pyramid or one of those pucks?
Well, that's a really good question. what I did was I put it all together in an article called "How to Turn a Cell Tower into a Cloud." Turn a cell tower into a cloud buster. So the biggest thing you can do actually is gift a tower, because you turn that cell tower into an OR device, basically, on a massive scale. So you don't even need a bigger orgonite. You just need to put it near a tower. But yeah, bigger organites cover a bigger area. But when it comes to out in the field, you don't even need to. It's just a matter of where you put it. So this is 3 ounces. And 1 3-ounce tower buster is actually all you need. If you put it, check out my site, thekembo.com, under articles. It says how to turn a cell tower into a cloud buster. You literally change that cell tower into a massive orgone device that has a wide range, totally flips the energy, changes the atmosphere, and creates these beautiful OR clouds, we call them, the clouds that result from a healthy atmosphere, and eventually brings rain when it's when it's supposed to rain, instead of suppressing it.
Now, I heard something interesting from I believe it was the Inuit elders in Alaska that were discussing how they can no longer have proper meditations and astral project because they run into this frequency grid manifesting through their astral experiences, which I found very interesting, and that makes me think of the grid that you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely fascinating. And I am so glad you said that, because a lot of people think they can meditate their way through this. And if these are, you said they were Inuits that were experiencing this, and they have long traditions. They have long traditions of connecting with the Great Spirit, with the atmospheric energy. They have a deep connection. And if even they're being stopped by this, how much more so the rest of us, just through this deadly energy. So people think, oh, that's okay. I have my cell phone, but it's fine. It doesn't affect me. I can still meditate, and I'm still going to ascend and reach these high levels of consciousness. It absolutely suppresses your mind's ability to do that, because it literally changes the way your brain works, the way your body works. Your energy field is changed. So yes, we do need to eliminate it. And I would love to send those guys some orgonite, because that would solve their problem.
Now, does orgonite in proximity to your cell phone, does it reflect any positive energy, or does it change the energy coming from the cell phone, or just prevent it from affecting you in certain ways?
Well, it helps. It will help, but it will not. Nothing will be as efficient or as beneficial as turning the device off and using the orgonite to protect yourself from external EMF that you can't do anything about, like your neighbors, if they have a smart home or something like that. You want to be protected from that, because that you can't do anything
That's
about.
Very interesting, though, about what it does in regards to your own phone, because a lot of people just want it as a Band-Aid, or they tell me, why don't you make a cell phone case made of orgonite?
I was going to mention that talk that you did.
Yeah, well, the reason I don't do that is because, well, here's a couple of people that aren't me that have said stuff. So I'll speak from others' points of view for a minute. Don Croft had explained, when you gift the tower, that around the cell tower itself, there's still a deadly field. So even if you've gifted it within a few feet of that tower, there's still a deadly field. And another expert on EMF, Lloyd Burrell, he's not into orgonite. He's just an EMF guy. He tells you how to get rid of EMF in your home. He had always said, distance is your friend. So with that in mind, and we know that the orgonite doesn't block energy, it just creates a counterfield. The energy coming off of the cell phone or any offending device is still there. So no matter what, you've still got it. You can neutralize it, make it less harmful, but distance is your friend. So if you're still holding your cell phone, you're still really close within that field. So you might get some relief, but you're still bombarding yourself.
Yeah.
The two energies exist side by side. So we want to, in our own homes, not have the DOR, if possible. And in the other crazy thing, and I do want to bring this up because people say, I just got the orgonite, now I feel worse. What happened? Most people say I feel great. Like I usually get like exuberant responses to it, but every once in a while someone says I don't feel well. That the person that doesn't feel well is usually a very heavy user and a DOR addict. And then you've got this conflict within them of the energy they're used to.
Gotcha.
And this new thing that's fighting it. And it's the turmoil. It's that turmoil, that energetic battle that they're feeling. For most people, that doesn't happen because most people are not actually on that level of addiction. Like most people who would come to us for orgonite are not so addicted to DOR and not such heavy cell phone users that they're completely taken over by it. But some are, and they want a solution and they don't want to get rid of the phone. And unfortunately, they then feel that battle within themselves because they're fighting themselves at that point.
Now, this is such an easy solution for a lot of the problems we're facing, and you make it to where folks can create these themselves. You actually teach people how to do this, right?
Yep. There are videos on our site, explains every step. We've had lots of great responses to these videos. Lots of people around the world. Our Tower Buster video on YouTube, we used to have a YouTube channel. We still have it up. We stopped uploading it to it because they kept, censoring our videos. But there's a video up there. It's got I think it's got at least 80,000 views on it. And that's a lot because we only get a few hundred views a video, honestly, or maybe 1,000.
We are
not a lot.
majorly suppressed.
Somehow the Tower Buster video got out there. So we know people worldwide are making these. I've gotten great responses to it. So yeah, definitely go to thekembo.com, check out our learning center, check out the Orgonite page. There's videos on how to make the Tower Busters and the pyramids. And you could also buy them from us if you don't want to make your own. We sell them at a very low price. We offer sales all the time. Like right now we've got these buy one, get one 50% off. These ones are always really cheap, and we offer discounts the more you buy.
Yeah, we keep them as cheap as we can. And also
they start at $10 each, and then it goes down from there if you buy more.
Also, I do want to say before I forget, we get by exclusively because of the support of people buying Orgonite from our shop. We don't have matrix jobs. We quit our matrix jobs in 2015, just on a hunch, just on the hope that we would be able to make this work, be able to just sustain ourselves on it, and somehow by some miracle it has. And so this is it for us. That's so great. We greatly appreciate any support at all. People can donate to us, they can buy our Orgonite, and they can make it themselves.
Yeah, you don't need to spend a dime. I offer all this for free on the site. We've got
the tutorial videos if you just want to make it yourself. That's great too. The main thing we want is people taking care of the problem. And yes, it does sound incredibly easy to do.
It actually is incredibly easy.
And it's been said that, if something sounds too easy, people will reject it. But on the flip side of that, if something sounds too difficult, people will also reject it. So consequently, we get this very, very narrow sense of what is possible. And anything and everything outside of it is just like anathema.
And what would it hurt to put one of these devices within proximity to your location?
That's the crazy thing that we noticed early on. It's the billions of dollars that these telecommunication companies spend on putting up these cell phone towers everywhere, just millions of them, and just for a few bucks, take care of it.
That's amazing. Awesome. Sharon Gabriel, thank you so much. This was great. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with that we didn't get to yet before we close out?
Actually, this was really an awesome interview. You covered everything well because it's a huge topic. So, you were able to hit the bullet points really well, and we didn't get too off track. So that's cool. I think that I just want to encourage everybody to get involved and start gifting in your area. If you noticed any of these problems, which I'm sure if they're listening to this show, they've seen these problems. Just try it. We just tried it too. We didn't know what it was going to do. The first time we made our first batch of Orgonite was these little pyramids. We were going to make a 6-pack of these on a mold of 6. We ended up only making enough resin to pour 5 because we didn't know what we were doing. Those 5 alone cleared the sky for about a mile around the house. It was all haze. After we did these, while they were curing, it cleared a mile of sky. So I say that you got nothing to lose to just try it. If you see what it does and you love it, then start putting them around your neighborhood, your town, and definitely make your home energetically safe. You need to feel well, not feel agitated. The DOR makes people feel agitated. I don't think I got into that too much, but if you're feeling agitated, angry, negative emotions of any kind, it's almost always the DOR. I mean, just get rid of it. Turn it off. Turn off your cell phone. Turn off your Wi-Fi. Get the energy quiet.
I was going to say that.
Oh, okay. Well, get one of these and feel better because, people do get very agitated in today's world. And a lot of it is because of this agitating, deadly radiation.
All of it is artificially generated to create that human suffering. That's the food that these parasites, whatever you want to call them, we call them CTs now, which stands for cryptoterrestrials, because that seems the most likely scenario right now. But yeah, they need human suffering, and they will go to any lengths to generate even just little scraps of it here and there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to leave people with two things. One, I would recommend that people check out some good movies that show what's going on now. I mentioned They Live earlier. I would really like to give that a second mention, because that is an incredible work of nonfiction. That is, I mean, of course, it's done in that campy 80s style, but if you look at what that film is trying to convey beneath all the Hollywood stuff, you'll see exactly what's going on.
It talks about the towers. It actually mentions the frequency, and it shows the hidden alien threat. It shows both.
Yeah, and I grew up and we both grew up in LA, so seeing that movie is really nostalgic for the both of us. And the other thing I would recommend, obviously, is The Matrix. There's another one talking about how the energy of suffering is mined. It's just a gigantic mining operation that's going on, and that one is great. And also, to evidence what was going to be my second point of people just realizing they need to turn off those devices whenever possible. The third film is Idiocracy,
yes.
which really it's ironic because it came out before the smartphone existed.
I know, they should have been in the film. There was no smartphones in the film.
That film really does evidence where the culmination of this thing lies if left completely unchecked. So yeah, got to turn those things off whenever possible, and just reconnect with nature. We moved out of LA 8.5 years ago, and we live in the mountains an hour north of the city now, and it's completely changed our lives to not be immersed in that DOR field 24/7. It's a complete game changer. And like you were saying, Chris, just what do you have to lose? Just try it.
This is great.
You'd be surprised how amazing it works.
Wonderful. This is
and you start to learn all these other things once you quiet that energetic noise. Everything starts to...
You become very smart, very fast. You learn a lot really quickly.
Yeah. I love it. This is amazing. Sharon and Gabriel, one more time before we close out, let them know website and anything else that they can get more info about this from.
Yeah, our website, once again, is www.thekembo.com. We've got all our links there to where our podcast, The Human Frequency. We're on Rumble and BitChute and Odyssey now, and you can find links to all of those. Check out Sharon's articles, all the documents she referenced, like the frequently asked questions. That's if you're new to Orgonite, that will help to just get, because we just scratched the surface here. But yeah, that will answer a lot of people's questions, I know. And last but not least, I cannot stress enough, our shop is also there. You can get Orgonite from us, and that really helps to support us and allow us to continue doing our gifting work. It has allowed us to do this Boise gifting, and all of your support allows us to continue doing that and all the giftings that we have planned in the future.
And thank you, Chris, for helping us get the word out about this. It's a very suppressed topic, and it's totally forbidden knowledge. So thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
It's the essence of forbidden.
Yes, thank you both. I love what you're doing. This is so essential right now. And we're definitely going to have you back. There's much more we could get into. Like you said, we barely scratched the surface, so I'd love to have you back in the future.
There's so much more. We haven't even talked about how this ties in with the financial system and the insanity going on there, and et cetera, et cetera.
Multi-layers. We will definitely have you back. And until next time, everyone, have a wonderful evening. We will talk again tomorrow, and we'll see y'all then.